The mall squats under a low lid of clouds, a broad shadow on a dead map, and I stand at the service lane, counting storefront dock doors and listening for any sound that moves with intention. The wind is steady against torn flags. Pigeons hold the roofline. I keep my pack close to the ribs, one hand on the strap, the other on a pry bar that started life under a car seat. I do not want to sleep outside again. I need a roof, walls, and places that funnel noise away from me. The delivery dock door with the broken latch is the first invitation. I crouch, slide the bar under, and lift the panel one rib at a time. The rails complain, then calm. Stale air pushes out with the smell of old grease and dust. I hold the opening just long enough to scan for feet and shadows under racks, then commit and roll inside. I pull the door down behind me until it kisses the floor and leaves a narrow seam of light. The loading bay is a short canyon with stacks of flattened boxes and a yellow line flaking to powder. My footsteps leave darker prints in the dust. I wait to see if the room answers, then cross to the access door marked with a sun-faded decal that once promised 2-day shipping. The knob turns. The hallway beyond hisses with the light hum of a building that holds its breath out of habit. Emergency exit signs glow on trickle power. I study the map on the wall. Anchor stores at the ends, food court under the skylight, service corridors looping the length, security office near the center. The mall is a maze wrapped around a spine. I step through and close the door without letting the latch click. Sound carries in empty places. I pad along the service corridor, passing gray doors with stenciled numbers and the stale perfume of 1,000 shipments. A scuff mark near a junction is fresh. I crouch to touch it. The grit on my fingers is clean, not laminated with age. Someone moved through here within a day or two. A cage cart leans against the wall. I tip it, retrieve a coil of plastic strapping, and knot soda tabs to the end. Noise line, low-tech and loyal. I string it across the corridor at knee height and anchor it to a fire extinguisher bracket. If something comes this way, the tabs will kiss the metal and tell me. I follow the corridor to the first swing door and nudge it with the pry bar. The main concourse opens wide, a dry river under a high glass roof tinted amber by grime. Storefronts wear metal grins. The carousel of a kid's play area sits still with a split horse and a sticker warning not to climb. I listen hard. The building gives back faint water ticks under the skylight and the distant shuffle of something that cannot decide on a direction. I want the second floor for sightlines and the security office for maps and keys. I stay to the shadows, moving storefront to storefront, skirting piles of glass and a trash can rolled on its side with flyers stuck inside. A bent sign reads, "Back to School Savings." I pass the memory without letting it latch on. The escalator is dead, stair teeth bare and gray. I climb with the pry bar held low, placing my weight on the edges to avoid the hollow claps that echo under the steps. At the landing, I flatten and scan. The balcony rail gives me a clean view of the food court. Tables are overturned in neat caution more than panic. Good. That says there was time to plan here. I spot the security office near the center, a glassed box with blinds half drawn and a rack of monitors that stare at nothing. The door is locked. I slide the pry bar between the jamb and the latch, lean slow, and feel the wood fibers surrender. The door sighs open and bumps a chair. I step in and let the blinds settle back into their crooked pattern. Inside, radios, a binder of incident slips, a pegboard with keys on labeled hooks, a map with a grease pencil route traced from the north entrance to the pharmacy. Someone had a plan to sweep or to flee, or both. I close the door, wedge it with a rubber chock, and stand still long enough to hear if I have angered anything. Nothing comes. Water first. I check the sink and get a dribble that smells metallic. Not good enough. I remember a fountain near the food court and a maintenance closet marked mechanical. I pocket a small flashlight, grab a ring of master keys, and add a handful of white zip ties to my pocket, because zip ties are honest friends. Back on the balcony, I mark a mental route, past the empty cell phone kiosk, left at the candle store, down the stairs near the skate shop. I keep my steps light and keep my eyes moving. A storefront gate rattles on the far side of the court, then settles. I freeze with my knee halfway bent and count. The seconds go in a thin line. A figure moves behind the grate, slow and without rhythm, then stops with its head turned toward a poster of a smiling family. It has no interest in me. I reverse 3 steps and slide behind a planter. When the mall holds steady again, I take the stairs. The food court is a museum of plastic food and empty napkin holders. A fryer basket sits half-raised over a gray block of oil. I do not inventory the names on the signs. I go for the utility door under the exit sign and try keys until a brass one with a filed edge turns. The maintenance room is tight and warm. A water manifold squats in the corner with valves labeled for zones. I twist one for the east wing and hear a tired rush in the wall. I return to the fountain and hold my bottle under the spout. The stream is thin and bitter, but I have a filter in my pack. I fill 2 bottles and leave the third for emergencies. Food next. The grocery anchor is empty long ago. Shelves turned into barricades near the doors. But the vitamin store still has sealed bars and tubs of powder that smell like fake fruit. I sweep those into my pack. The camping store 2 units down still has fuel canisters wired with theft cables. The front gate is down, but the back door opens to my new ring of keys. I step into a small sea of tents and coolers. I take a compact stove, 3 fuel canisters, a roll of reflective blanket, and a box of water purification tablets I do not trust, but keep anyway. On a rack, I find headlamps with the batteries removed, and a basket of batteries that were meant to be sold at the counter. I sort pairs and test one headlamp. It throws a soft cone that makes the shadows step back an inch. With water and food handled for the night, I think about where to sleep. Not the security office. That room is too obvious. I need a pocket with only one approach and a line of sight. The mattress store is tempting but feels like a stage. I choose the children's clothing store across from it because no one fights to break into a place that sells socks for toddlers. The back room has a single door and a stock shelf that rolls. I pull the shelf across the doorway, then thread a cable lock through the wheels and a steel eye on the floor. I hang the soda tab line low across the entrance and rest the pry bar within reach. For sound discipline, I put paper under the chair legs. I set my stove on a tile and heat water for tea made from a jar of forgotten leaves I found by the register. The first sip is far from good, but it warms the tongue and tells the body to stand down 1 level. Light fades through the skylight and turns the concourse into a bowl of shadow. The mall shifts as temperature drops. Metal relaxes. Somewhere a door settles. I eat a bar that tastes like chalk and sugar and close my eyes only after I have counted the sounds of my own small camp twice. A clatter wakes me from the shallow kind of rest that never admits it is rest. The soda tabs on my line tick in a polite, steady note. I slide off the chair and press my ear to the crack under the stock shelf. A shape moves outside the back room, fast and deliberate. The smell of damp clothing slips under the door, layered with the faint scent of fuel. "Hello," a voice says low. A man's voice, dry and careful. "I saw your light, not asking for trouble." I weigh silence against the risk of a misunderstanding. Back up, I answer, keeping my voice even, hands where I can see through the slat at the bottom. He shuffles backward. I crouch to the crack and see boots, wet to mid-calf. No blood, no dragging. He carries a backpack that sags with gear, not loot. I scan the shadows for a partner. Nothing. Alone? I ask. Yes. He sounds relieved to answer. Name's Mark. Came in through the cinema entrance. Rain started. Wanted a roof. I can move on. Stay out there, I tell him. No closer to the door. I will talk, then decide. I tuck my pack behind me and keep my hand on the pry bar. He sits on the floor with his back to the wall where I can see his outline. Good choice. He understands visible hands and open angles. I saw 2 inside, he says. 1 in the candle shop, 1 in the salon. Both slow. I'm not interested in making noise. We keep it that way, I answer. Where are you headed? East, he says. I heard a relay still throws a broadcast from the hills. Old weather tower. Maybe a camp near it. I do not know if that was an old recording. I want to be under a steady voice again. I do not invite him in. I also do not send him out under the rain and the dark. There is a security office mid-mall, I say. Glass box with blinds. Good sight lines, bad cover. If you bed down in there, keep the lights low and block the lower glass with anything soft. Do not touch the panel. The alarm zone lights still wake if you poke them wrong. He nods, then realizes I cannot see him. Understood. I will leave in the morning. Make a noise line, I say. Use whatever you have. Tabs, clips, keys. I have a string of washers, he says. I learned that one the hard way. He stands slowly, shows both hands again, and pads away. The soda tabs on my line hang quiet. I wake before full light. Rain drums on the skylight in a steady sheet. The mall smells like wet concrete and old sugar. I pack my small camp and slide the shelf aside. No new marks on the dust. I step out, rehang the noise line, and move toward the security office. Mark is asleep in a chair with his feet up on a second chair, arms crossed, head dipped forward. He did as told. The lower windows are covered with jackets draped over the sill. He did not touch the panel. Good. I do not wake him yet. I brew tea on the tile floor and leave a cup on the desk where the steam can find his nose without calling the whole mall. I need to clear the nearby stores. The candle shop holds one of the slow ones, the salon the other. If I leave them, every sound we make will collect there until the room tips. The candle shop gate is half down, a gap at the bottom just big enough for a crawl. I look at the roofline and the side wall and find a return air vent with a loose cover. I decide to herd, not fight. I find a bundle of glow sticks in the camping store and snap 3 so the liquid wets my fingers. I toss one through the gap in the gate and wait. The figure inside comes forward on careful feet, drawn to the color and motion. The glow stick rolls, the figure follows, and bumps the gate. I toss a second to the side so it rattles. The figure turns, confuses itself, and circles. The candles stacked by the register topple and make a clink that echoes more than I like, but no new sounds answer. I move to the salon. The glass door is locked, but the side wall is drywall, not block. In the service corridor, I find the salon's back door and test it with keys. The third one turns. Inside, hair clippings coat the floor in a layer that looks like ash. A form shifts in a chair with a cracked shampoo bowl. Its head jerks at an angle that never belonged to a living person. I back out, prop the back door with a wedge, and loop a belt around the chair legs and the sink stem, so if the thing stands, the chair holds it long enough for me to be elsewhere. Mark appears at my shoulder, quiet enough to make me reach for the pry bar before I see his open hands. He lifts the cup in a small salute. "Thanks for the tea," he says in a low voice. "I can take the south wing if you want the north." We do it together, I say. Parallel lanes feed mistakes. We keep one line, two sets of eyes. He nods. We sweep the row, shoe store empty, bookstore looted long ago, but with a bag of employee name tags that give us circular clips for more noise lines. Electronics store, metal bars cut and pulled back, glass gone, no one inside. We do not touch the cases. We are not here for shiny ghosts. At the far end of the wing, a department store door stands open a hand's width and breathes a slow draft that smells like wet cardboard. I tilt my head and hear a faint scuff, then three more in a cluster. Not one, more than one, moving without a shared plan. I close the gap with the head of a mop handle jammed under the pull bar, then add a strap across it. Mark points to a roll-down truck gate at the loading dock. We secure that with a length of chain from the hardware kiosk and a padlock I found in the security drawer. Back at the food court, we eat in silence. He chews like a man who learned to respect quiet the hard way. I pour a little warm water over tea leaves for a second use and watch the rain. The day is gray and long. I decide to stay one more night. The mall will bear it if we keep our footprints small and our noise lines honest. We make camp together without inviting familiarity. He takes the security office again. I move my base to a shop with glass high enough to watch the concourse. We agree on signals. 2 taps for come, 3 for stop, a long drag on the gate for hide. Simple and hard to confuse. Late afternoon brings a change in the air. A lift under the roof that says the storm is passing. That is good for travel and bad for secrecy. Sound will carry again, and footsteps outside will find open paths. I walk the perimeter once more and add washer strings to every pinch point. The concourse looks dressed for a school art project, but those thin lines will speak when I cannot see. At dusk, Mark signals with 2 taps. I cross to him low and fast. He points to the north entrance, where a set of glass doors hangs one hinge short. Outside, a van sits crooked against the curb with the driver door open. 3 figures move around it with sharp motions and the kind of pauses that belong to the living. They check the van, check each other, then face the mall like men who have measured the dark and chosen to enter. We crouch behind the planter and watch. The tallest man pushes the broken door with his shoulder. It swings in without complaint. He holds it with his foot while the others slip through. One carries a crowbar. One carries a length of pipe. The third has a backpack with radio antennae that twitch when he moves. The radio hiss is low but bright in the silence. I do not want to fight. I do not want company. I also do not want those doors to remain open with dusk deepening. I point to the service corridor door below us, and then to my noise lines. Mark nods and moves to my right, unseen. We split the balcony, staying in the blind spots of the kiosks. The 3 men reach the food court and stop to listen. One kicks a chair. The sound rings and dies. From the candle shop, the slow one bumps the gate again. The radio antenna man mutters a soft curse that does not carry far, and that restraint tells me he is not new to this. He gestures toward the cinema wing. The tall one shrugs and starts toward it. I slide down the stairs and step into the service corridor. My hand flicks each washer string so it sings a short warning. Infected do not parse that tone, but humans do. I want the new men to hear the mall is wired and watched. I want them to choose caution over curiosity. It almost works. The tall man stops at the corridor door and presses his ear to the crack. He hears the washers. He grins without joy and pushes the door in hard. It bangs the stop and sends a note down the hallway that pulls a grunt from the salon. The chair I rigged scrapes. The tall man jumps back. The radio man lifts his palm to slow him down. It is a good impulse that arrives a bit late. From the department store, something decides the noise means open paths. The door we jammed with a mop handle holds, but the panel flexes. The strap creaks. The tall man swings his crowbar toward the sound because his world is built on the hammer response to the unknown. The crowbar bangs metal and the echo stacks on itself. The mall wakes. Enough, I say, stepping out where all three can see me. My hands are open and empty. The pry bar hangs at my belt. Stop hitting things. The tall man raises the crowbar again, but the radio man grabs his wrist. Hold up, he says. He looks at me, eyes steady. You live here? Tonight, I answer, and only if the roof remains a roof. We need a place for the night, the radio man says. Rain soaked the gear. We saw the van and took a chance. You opened the wrong door, I say. There are slow ones in the west wing. I caged them. Do not pass that line. I point to the strap across the department store door. You step on that gate, it sings. The place will fill. You do not want what comes next. The third man, who has said nothing, studies the washers and the soda tabs and the angles. He nods to the radio man. He knows the room, he says. We follow his rules or we go back out. The radio man considers, then lowers his hand. We can pay, he says. He reaches into his pack, slow, and lifts out a sealed pouch of rice, dry and clean. Keep it, I say. Your payment is stillness. Close the door you opened. Use the cinema lobby. Sleep behind the ticket counter. No lights on the glass. No talking above a whisper. Leave at dawn, and do not touch the gates that groan. If you do, you clean it up out there, not in here. The tall man bristles. The radio man shoots him a look that strips away the argument. Fair, he says. He tips the crowbar to show no contest. The third man moves back to the entrance, resets the glass as best he can, and wedges a trash can under the handle so a push from outside meets resistance. We retreat to our corners. The mall breathes again in long draws. I do not like the new variables, but I have enough lines strung and enough doors primed that I can predict most paths. I check the salon belt, tighten it, and then sit in the shadows across from the security office with my back to a block wall that will not surprise me. The night deepens. A small splash echoes, water dripping through a skylight seam. A cloud moves away from the moon, and the concourse lifts in faint silver, then dims. Near midnight, a noise line sings in the service hallway behind the pharmacy. The note is soft and slow, not a step, a tail, or a limb. I move without standing tall and put my eye to the hinge gap. A dog slides along the hall, ribs in a neat ladder, nose down. Its tail brushes the washers with each pass. It looks up when I open the door, checks my face for story, and finds none that interests it. It moves on, pads through the glow from the exit sign, and disappears under the stairs. I mark the path and close the door with a cloth over the latch so it will not click. An hour later, the mall changes again. Noise from the cinema wing grows in short bursts. Not our guests, something else. I cross the balcony and look down. The three men have done most of what I asked, but the tall one could not resist a raid on the concession stand. He eats with his back to the glass of a poster case. Behind that glass, something slaps, faint and rhythmic. A stuck door behind the case tries to open and fails, tries again and fails. With each try, the poster lifts and slaps back. I clench my jaw and choose not to yell. Yelling invites echoes. I pick up a coin from the floor and skip it down the tile. The sound snaps their heads up. I point to the poster and make a flat chopping motion. Stop. The radio man sees the door flex and makes a face that says he knows the physics of trapped weight. He drags the tall man away by the jacket. The third man resets the snack boxes he had stacked as steps. The slapping slows, then stops. The building goes quiet again. I do not sleep. Toward dawn, the rain thins to a mist that hangs in the skylight. The gray lifts by degrees. I boil water and let a tea bag steep long. Mark joins me and accepts a cup with a nod. We do not talk. We pack our gear at the same pace without planning it. The three in the cinema wing stir, collect their things with quiet efficiency, and head toward the entrance without seeking a farewell. The door gives a soft cry when they open it. The morning air smells washed and sharp. The men step out and pull the door as close to shut as the bent hinge allows. The radio man glances back once, not in thanks, not an apology, just a check to fix the room in his head in case his path curves back. I hope it does not. With the building ours again, I set a new plan. One more day, then out. Before I go, I want something useful. The hardware kiosk has bolts and blades. The pharmacy has bandages and tablets. The roof might offer line of sight for a sweep of the horizon. I choose the pharmacy first, because care is the only currency that increases in value when kept. The gate is down, but the frame is aluminum with screws exposed. I sit cross-legged and unscrew a corner panel while my mind holds the surrounding sounds in a loose net. Inside, the air is stale, sweet with expired cough syrup. I take gauze, tape, antiseptic, a small bottle of disinfectant, and a box of basic pain relievers. Behind the counter, a drawer holds old receipts and a roll of pharmacy labels. I take the labels. Sticky paper is gold. On the wall, a schedule is pinned with names and shifts. The last day circled in red is 18 months ago. Under it, a note in thin handwriting. Close at 6 if no one comes. I put the note back where I found it. Some things stay in the rooms they belong to. The roof access hatch is at the end of a private stair behind the security office. The lock is old and hard. I oil it from a tiny bottle and wait. Patience with locks saves fingers later. The key turns. The hatch lifts with grit whispering from the frame. Up top, the air is clear. The parking lots are wide plates dotted with weeds. The van sits with a sheen of water on the roof. In the distance, a thin column of smoke rises from the edge of the industrial park. I note the wind direction and file it for the walk out. I scan the tree line and the feeder roads. No motion I can pin a plan on. A skylight pane has slipped in its frame. I kneel and push it back until the gasket kisses glass. It will not keep out a determined climb, but it will send rain off instead of in. I set a small water collector on the roof near the drain, just in case the clouds decide to be generous again before I leave. Back inside, I sweep the last few stores for quiet gear. A roll of duct tape, a pack of screws, a pair of work gloves in my size. In the bookstore, I find a laminated mall directory that fits in a pocket. It will make a decent map for someone else one day. I mark the blocked doors in pencil and circle the fountain that still gives a trickle. By afternoon, hunger nudges me to the food court. I heat rice with a pinch of salt and a splash of oil decanted from a sealed bottle I found under a counter. The flame makes a soft sound on the stove. Mark joins me and sets down a can of peas. He opens it with a P38 hung on a string around his neck. The little tool squeaks through the lid in half circles. He tips half into my pot without a word. We eat. The peas are bright and taste like a year that will not come back. Mark wipes his spoon with a piece of napkin and tucks it away. I leave in an hour, he says. Cut east through the service road. If you go south, the overpass is washed out. I saw the smoke north, I say. I might skirt it and loop around. A tower makes sense. Voices make sense. I do not say I am low on voices. He knows. He stands, adjusts his straps, and offers his hand from his belt register, where a quick grab can turn into a strike if needed. I meet it the same way. We keep our grips short and firm, no speeches. He heads down the corridor, checks himself twice for loose gear that might clink, and is gone into the light under the bent door. Now the mall is mine again for the hours that remain. I walk the length one last time and fix each doorway in my head. I move the chair away from the salon belt so no one will free the thing by accident. I detach half my noise lines and coil them for the next camp. I leave the ones near the north entrance in place for an early warning someone else may earn. Near sunset, a sound rises that does not belong to the mall, a low drone far to the east. I step onto the balcony and cup my ear. The drone grows into a rough chop. A small aircraft snips across the slice of sky the skylight allows. It banks once, then continues south. The sound drops into the distance and leaves a clear silence behind, like a table wiped clean. I take it as a cue. I pack the last items, roll my bedroll tight, and pick up the laminated map. I leave 2 bottles of treated water under the security desk with a card that reads clean. I tape another card to the fountain with an arrow and the word trickle. Small notes can bend a life. At the north entrance, I ease the bent door open and wait. The lot holds a fresh puddle, a circle of sky and a lid of asphalt. Wind moves across the surface and makes a pattern like handwriting. I step out, ease the door back as close to shut as it will go, and wedge a broken tile under the corner so it cannot flap and call attention in the next gust. My boots find the edge of the service lane and hold it. Less grit there, less noise. I keep the mall in my peripheral vision until I cross the first lane marker and the building becomes a background. I move toward the eastern fence line and a gap where ivy has pulled the chain low. The van sits quiet. I do not approach it. Van doors are questions with bad answers. At the fence, I lift a strand with the pry bar, slide under, and let the wire settle. The industrial park smells of wet metal and long work days that never finished. A sign on a warehouse door hangs crooked and reads, "Safety first," in letters that never met this world. I pass without comment. On the rise beyond the park, I stop and turn. The mall sits in its bowl of parking and scrub. The skylight catches a thin wedge of late sun and throws it back in a soft flash that only a person watching for it would see. For a breath, the building looks less like a ruin and more like a container for careful choices. That is enough. I set my course along the ridge that will keep me above the floodplain. Night will have me before I reach the next cluster of structures, but I can make a dry island in a line of ash trees. The noise lines in my pocket chime a little as I walk, and the sound makes a simple promise. If something brushes against the world I build around me, I will know. I keep moving until the mall drops out of sight. Morning finds me with the kind of clear air that burns the edges off distance. I snake back toward the road that heads to the weather tower. The path skirts the back of the mall's property line, and I pause when the roofline edges back into view. A figure stands on the roof near the hatch, small and still. Mark, maybe. He raises a hand once, not to wave but to test the wind. The gesture is spare and practical. I do not call out. The space between us is loaded with quiet work. I move on. The road narrows and then breaks into patches of gravel and dirt. A fox slips across the path ahead of me and vanishes into sumac. Somewhere, water runs where a culvert has collapsed. I start counting intersections and marking them in pencil on the back of the mall map. I circle a grove that smells of damp leaves and write "Camp Safe" under it. By noon, a ridge opens a long view to the east, and there it is. The tower, a bone-thin needle against the white sky. The sight pulls a small, tight smile out of me without permission. I fold the mall map and tuck it deep, then set a steady pace toward a place where a voice might still live. Before the hill drops me out of view, I look back one last time. The mall is a low smear on the horizon now, more idea than place. It held for a night because I held it, and because I listened to what it offered, and refused to force it to be more. That rule has carried me farther than luck. Keep the footprint small, read the room. Leave it better than I found it, even if the improvement is only a note that points to water and a door that does not slam in the wind. I put the ridge between the mall and me and let the day take over. If I earn another night under a roof, it will be because the next space speaks and I choose to hear it. If a voice greets me from the weather tower, I will answer. If the tower is dead, I will coil my noise lines and sit with the wind until I hear something else I can use. That is the work now. Simple work, done carefully, one room at a time.